As much as I don't like necessarily talking about things like this, I think that it needs to be said based off of the debacle that happened back in 2019 with some of Nintendo's best games and the discussions that I'm seeing quite a bit when it comes to the best games for 2022. Now, there is an old saying that history repeats itself, and I'm somewhat low-key terrified that that could happen with one of the big games that I'm really loving right now, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And we're gonna go ahead and delve into this and exactly everything that I'm talking about in just a bit. But before we do, what's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're someone new to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and jump into this here. And yes, we're talking about the Game Awards. We're talking about Jeff Keighley. We're talking about the Game of the Year. And we've discussed this before on the channel. I've talked about it in my live streams. I think that Elden Ring is going to be somewhat of a sweep when it comes to Game of the Year awards, not just from the Game Awards, but from many other publications as well. It took the internet and world by storm in the first half of the year. Everything was all about Elden Ring. It's one of the highest reviewed games of all time, one of the highest reviewed RPGs. I mean, it has like a 95, 96, somewhere in that range, mid to high 90s. So right there, that gets you in the all-time status. And I'm not saying that Elden Ring doesn't deserve it, but something just tells me, especially because there are some similarities with what Nintendo has done this year and the quality of some of their games, and potentially what could be happening with what happened in 2019. Now, in 2019, there was a game, Fire Emblem Three Houses, that took the strategy RPG fans by storm and rose the Fire Emblem franchise to a brand new frontier, brought it into a sales bracket and on a system that was extremely popular, that people loved to play. So it did extremely well with the reviews and people buying the game, over 3 million in less than a year. It was a mega hit, and that was great for that franchise. And I'm starting to see some parallels with potentially that happening with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Both have an 89 score. Both come from franchises that didn't get the best sales and kind of had breakout releases on a popular platform in order to get a really good score and have more fans pick it up and more new people jumping in more now than ever. And something tells me that if we're not vigilant about what could happen here, Xenoblade could get passed over, kind of like how Fire Emblem Three Houses and even Astral Chain, to a little bit lesser degree, got passed over in 2019 for games that reviewed way lower than it. What are those games that I'm talking about? Well, that is Death Stranding and also Control. I mean, those two games, don't get me wrong, obviously Death Stranding was a huge game from a Sony marketing standpoint, from a Kojima standpoint, from a Jeff Keighley standpoint, with him being in the game and him marketing it and talking about it so much and all of that. So I understand the dynamics and the politics kind of behind that. But at the same time, even a game like Control, which I think reviewed, low 80s, and at the time was not seen as some type of Game of the Year contender or any type of massive, big, revolutionary type of thing, then all of a sudden towards the end of the year, it just starts getting nominated for everything. And we're like, okay, was Control really that great? People weren't talking about it like that when it came out in the middle of the year or so back in 2019. So could that happen with Xenoblade Chronicles 3? That seems to be the concern that I've seen from many people out there, in addition to me just sometimes saying, hey guys, it could be that way. Now, what Xenoblade 3 has going for it, it seems like this year doesn't quite have as many of those type of games that can just sneak up on you, even with a lower 80s review score or so. I think the games that are reviewing in that type of range are going to stay in that range and not really be brought about for Game of the Year. I think that even if you look at what Microsoft has done this year, which really isn't much, maybe if Starfield was here, maybe if the Redfall game was here, then maybe it would be more of a threat to kind of push Xenoblade out because of big Western gaming type of tastes, but I think that there's a couple things that Xenoblade really has going for it. The fact that it is a much higher production style of Xenoblade, it does have that review score with it, and we don't have Microsoft really in the thick of it this year with a lot of their own games as well. We still have Sony, right, with Horizon Forbidden West, which could definitely get a nomination. God of War Ragnarok is coming out later in the year. Maybe even Gran Turismo gets into the mix. So I would say this: is there a chance that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 doesn't get nominated for Game of the Year and it pisses a lot of people off? It could happen, but I'm not so sure if it's going to be this time around, considering the style and type of games that have came out. But like I said, if Microsoft released their games that they were supposed to have for this year, I think things would have been maybe a little bit different, despite Xenoblade probably still even deserving of where it would be, because I think that obviously if they delayed it, the game wouldn't have been as good as it could have been. So maybe the scores wouldn't have been as good as it could have been. So I do feel that that was part of it, but man, it always makes me think about what these reviewers are going to do, because the one thing that you have to notice, and I think that some people don't realize this about the Game Awards, is that while yes, these sites that are scoring Xenoblade that are part of the Game Awards or the voting process, yes, they're giving the game a great score, but usually what they do is that they hand that game off to someone who likes the Japanese RPGs or who likes that style of game or who's familiar with those types of games. So then when it comes time for the actual voting, a lot of these people don't buy and don't play a lot of these Nintendo games that review really high, like an Astral Chain or a Fire Emblem Three Houses or a Xenoblade Chronicles. So then when it comes time to vote, they just pick the big games that everyone's talking about. They just pick the God of Wars or the Red Deads or the stuff like that, and they sometimes overlook or just ignore whatever Nintendo's doing on their front. I mean, we've actually even seen it a number of times with games that have even scored higher. These are things that can definitely happen, and I think that the Game of the Year and what Keighley does, if there's some good to it, it brings a lot of attention on a lot of these games. I think that Metroid Dread, for example, got a great boost for being nominated and even winning one award at the Game Awards, but being nominated for Game of the Year got more and more eyes on the show because there are like millions of people who watch this. So I think that it would be really cool if Xenoblade actually got its due. And you can just think about it, not just Game of the Year, right? I mean, how about music? How about RPG of the Year? How about story? I mean, there's quite a number of things, narrative, that I think that Xenoblade should be up in the running for. I mean, especially music. And that's one thing that the Game Awards has routinely ignored Xenoblade and a lot of Japanese RPGs at times when it comes to music for games that have licensed soundtracks sometimes, or mixed with licensed music, or kind of has music that all kind of sounds kind of similar to each other. Yes, I'm saying that a little bit with some exaggeration, but I mean, it does seem like there's a certain style of music that wins, because stuff like, you know, Octopath Traveler nominated but didn't win, you know, so we haven't seen too many of those games actually take home that award for Japanese RPGs. Some nominations here and there, but not actually taking the award home. So I'm curious to see exactly how all of that is handled. Now, once again, this is not the be all end all when it comes to Keighley's and the awards and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. I think that Xenoblade, regardless, is going to do, or is continuing to do, really good. We heard about the sales. It's selling, you know, the best that it's had in the series when it comes to the opening in Japan and also in the UK. I'm guessing here in the US with eShop and also My Nintendo, we're going to get some big sales numbers as well. From what I'm tracking, I'm definitely seeing like it can top 1.5 or so million in the first month in terms of physical days that it's on sale. So I think that there's a lot of momentum riding with Xenoblade and the franchise ever since Pirate and Mythra got into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and also ever since Xenoblade Chronicles 2 broke the franchise sales record as well, and even crossed into the 2 million barrier, which Xenoblade had never done before. So I think that there's a lot of momentum with this franchise. There's a lot of people that are getting into it. The word of mouth is extremely good for this game. You're seeing people saying, yes, this is the best one. You can just hop into this one. You don't necessarily have to play the other ones. I never played the other ones, but this one is fantastic. I'm going to get more into the series. So you're seeing a positive shift with it, and that's what you want to see with Xenoblade. That's what you want to see with any franchise, especially a hardcore Japanese RPG franchise that has like a million different mechanics and everything. This is exactly what you want to see from there, but you have to give the credit to Monolith Soft and Nintendo. The marketing for this game was phenomenal as well, getting the word out about it, getting reviewers the game in time, of course, letting these streamers get copies of the game and play it and talking about it, and also Monolith Soft just reiterating on all the different mechanics and systems that they've done in the past and said, okay, we can do better here, we can do better there, we can do better here as well, and get better and better at their craft here. And I pretty much think this is the ultimate style and type of Xenoblade game, mixing so many different mechanics that they've had from previous games or certain ideas, but putting a Xenoblade flair or a new edge flair to it on the Nintendo Switch, and then creating all new mechanics as well to further the mechanics that they've done before in previous games, or even revised mechanics like not blades but heroes now instead, which is much better handled with the hero quests and like the colony stuff as well, and the affinity charts and also the gems. Everything's just been redone and revised and made so much better in this fourth major Xenoblade game, third in the big trilogy. So I'm very happy for Monolith Soft, and I think that they earned what they're getting at this point. But it'll be interesting to see not only what the Game Awards has to say here, but also what other websites, because it's not just the Game Awards. So will other places have Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in the running there? Will some places completely exclude it? I mean, we will have to wait and see. And don't worry, if it happens, we'll have videos talking about everything. But what do you guys think about this? What are your thoughts on Xenoblade Chronicles 3? And if it can make it into the Keighley Awards, will it get nominated for multiple awards? Will it win anything? Anybody willing to bet what's going to happen here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.